You know that sleeper car from Drive, the primer gray beast that Ryan Gosling silently commanded through the neon-lit streets of Los Angeles? That wasn't just movie magic, it's a real story of an actor who became so obsessed with his character that he literally took apart a junkyard car and rebuilt it with his own hands. The 1973 Chevrolet Chevelle Malibu shouldn't have worked. It came from the worst era of muscle cars, when emissions regulations strangled horsepower and the oil crisis killed performance. But director Nicholas Winding Refn gave Gosling a choice no actor had ever gotten before. Pick your own ride. What happened next changed everything. Today we're diving deep into 15 mind-blowing facts about the car that defined a generation of cinema, from NASCAR connections to auction records. This is the untold story of Drive's greatest co-star. Let's roll. Fact number 1. The Chevelle wasn't the first choice. Here's something that'll blow your mind. The 1973 Chevelle almost never happened. The original plan? A car built to resemble a 1970 Chevelle SS, the muscle car legend with brutal good looks and serious big block power. That would have been perfect, right? Wrong, because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had already used that exact car in the 2010 film Faster, where he also played a character named Driver. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. Darren Prescott, who was the stunt coordinator on both films, confirmed that the composite Chevelle from Faster, built on a 1971 chassis with a mix of 1972 and 1970 body panels to look like a 1970, was their first choice. So, the production team had to pivot, and honestly, that mistake became one of the best creative decisions in the movie. The 73 wasn't as pretty or powerful on paper, but it had something the Faster car didn't: raw, understated menace. Before we dive deeper into how this junkyard gem became a movie legend, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're uncovering the hidden stories behind Hollywood's most iconic cars, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's talk about how Gosling found his perfect ride. Fact number 2. Ryan Gosling was given total creative control. This never happens in Hollywood, like literally never. But director Nicholas Winding Refn did something unprecedented. He told Ryan Gosling to pick his character's car himself. For the first time in Gosling's entire career, he had complete control over this crucial element. Gosling took the responsibility seriously. He combined his personal automotive taste with what he thought a man like the Driver would own. Someone who needed to keep a low profile, someone who worked as a mechanic, someone who valued function over flash. After weighing several options for their pros and cons, Gosling made his final decision. One day he took Refn to a local Los Angeles junkyard and pointed at a beat-up 1973 Malibu sitting among the scrap. The production team bought it on the spot. It was rough, it was forgotten, and it was absolutely perfect. Fact number 3. Gosling rebuilt the car himself. Here's where it gets insane. Most actors would have handed the car over to a professional crew and called it a day. Not Ryan Gosling. He had the Malibu towed to a warehouse. And then he did something that still blows people's minds. He completely tore the car down to the frame and rebuilt the entire thing himself. We're talking about a total teardown. Frame, suspension, body panels, interior, everything. The only part he didn't handle, the transmission work, which he handed over to professional mechanics. Smart. But everything else, that was all Gosling, getting his hands dirty, understanding every bolt and component. He told Empire magazine in 2011, "My character never has to talk about cars or do anything underneath a car," so implying he needed to understand the machine to portray a mechanic and driver authentically. This wasn't method acting, this was method building. The bond Gosling forged with that car during the rebuild process translated directly to the screen. You can see it in every frame. Fact number 4. 3 Chevelles were built for production. You didn't think they'd risk their only car on Hollywood stunts, did ya? The production actually built 3 1973 Chevelles for filming, each with a specific purpose that tells its own story. The first car was destroyed during stunt work, the sacrifice necessary for those tense chase sequences. The second was the hero car used for close-ups and interior shots with Gosling and Carey Mulligan, featuring those unmistakable dashboard cracks you see on screen. The third, Ryan Gosling kept that one for himself after filming Wrapped. The hero interior car recently sold at a Bonhams auction in Paris, complete with a certificate of authenticity signed by William Billy Powell from the film's transportation department. It's now in the hands of Movie Cars Central, preserved exactly as it appeared on film. Weathered primer gray paint, aftermarket gauges, and all. Fact number 5. The car's engine remains a mystery. Pop the hood on the movie car, well, if you could, and you'd see 454 badges on the front fenders, suggesting the legendary Chevrolet 454 Big Block, a 7.4-liter V8 LS4 engine that was rated at 245 horsepower when stock. That sounds weak by today's standards, but remember, this was the height of the emissions era when muscle cars were being strangled by EPA regulations. But here's where it gets interesting. We never actually get a look under the hood in the film. The Bonhams auction listing described it as having a 4.7-liter V8, which would be a 289 or 305 cubic inch engine, a much more modest power plant. So was the 454 just cosmetic badging, or did someone at Bonhams get it wrong? The truth is, we don't know for certain, given the driver's mechanical skills and the car's on-screen performance. It's reasonable to assume he installed something more powerful than the base engine. The 454 badges could be real, or they could be the driver's way of sending a message to those who know. Either way, the ambiguity fits the character perfectly, a car that keeps its secrets just like its owner. For context, the base 1973 Malibu came with either a 250 cubic inch inline-6 or a 307 cubic inch V8, both producing a pathetic 110 horsepower. The 454 was optional for any Chevelle in 1973, not just the SS models. Whether the movie Malibu actually has one or not, the badges alone tell you everything about who the driver wants to be. Fact number 6. It came from the worst era of muscle cars. The 1973 Chevelle arrived at possibly the worst time in muscle car history. This was the first year of the third-generation Chevelle, featuring the controversial colonnade styling with fixed B pillars, instead of the pillarless hardtop design that muscle car fans loved. Why the change? Federal rollover safety standards forced GM's hand. The new structure was stronger and safer, but it killed the classic muscle car aesthetic. Add the oil crisis, skyrocketing insurance premiums, and EPA emissions regulations, and you've got a perfect storm that murdered the muscle car era. In fact, 1973 was the last year for the Chevelle SS package, with approximately 2,500 Chevelles receiving both the SS package and the 454 engine, out of 28,647 total SS models produced that year. Many automotive historians mark 1973 as the year the muscle car officially died. The timing made the Malibu the perfect metaphor for the driver, a survivor from a dying breed. Fact number 7. The original price was shockingly affordable. When new in 1973, a Chevrolet Chevelle cost between $2,750 and $3,790, depending on trim levels and options. That's approximately $19,000 to $26,000 in today's money, making it an affordable muscle car alternative even during the economic chaos of the early 70s. General Motors produced 386,739 Chevelles in 1973 across all body styles and trim levels, making it one of Chevrolet's most successful models despite the dying muscle car market. The Malibu trim sat in the middle of the lineup, not base model cheap, but far from the luxury Laguna series. This pricing perfectly reflected the driver's character, someone who needed reliable performance without drawing attention. He wasn't rich, but he knew how to get the most bang for his buck. Fact number 8. The car was just sold for $71,000 in November 2025. Fast forward to November 2025, and that worthless junkyard car proved its worth when Bonhams auctioned the Hero interior Chevelle in Paris during their Movie Cars collection sale. It sold for 61,600 euros, including buyer's premium. That's approximately 71,000 US dollars. Think about that appreciation. A beat-up junkyard find that cost pennies in production became a $71,000 collectible in just 14 years? The auction ran from November 21st to 28th, 2025, with no reserve, and achieved a 100% sell-through rate across all 50 vehicles offered. Movie Car Central had acquired the Chevelle from a private collector in the United Kingdom back in January 2020. And it came with the full provenance, including its certificate of authenticity signed by William Billy Powell from the Transportation Department. The final price reflects both the movie's enduring cult status and the car's verified screen time with Ryan Gosling. Fact number 9. The primer gray paint was a character choice. That weathered primer gray finish wasn't a budget decision, it was a deliberate character statement. The production intentionally left the car looking unfinished, like a work in progress that the driver was constantly tinkering with. Primer is typically used as an undercoat before the final paint, giving cars an intentionally rough industrial look. It screams, "I'm not done yet," or "I don't care what you think." For the driver, a character who valued anonymity and function over form, it was perfect. The gray also served a practical cinematic purpose. It absorbed and reflected the neon lights of Los Angeles beautifully, creating that signature dreamy neo-noir aesthetic that defines the film. In night scenes, the car almost glows, becoming an extension of the city itself. Fact number 10. No grille was another deliberate choice. Look at the front of the Malibu in Drive, and you'll notice something missing: the grille. This wasn't damage or an oversight. It was another calculated design decision that added to the car's menacing skeletal appearance. Removing the grille exposed the radiator and inner workings, giving the car a raw mechanical quality that matched the driver's personality. It suggested this was a machine built for purpose, not show. Some enthusiasts speculate it also improved cooling for the big block engine during hard driving. Combined with the factory-style silver wheels and primer finish, the missing grille completed the sleeper aesthetic, a car that looked like nothing special but could absolutely demolish anything that challenged it. Fact number 11. Aftermarket gauges hint at performance mods. Inside the cabin, eagle-eyed viewers noticed the aftermarket gauge cluster installed on the dashboard. This wasn't just set decoration, it was a subtle storytelling element that suggested the driver had modified the engine beyond stock specifications. Stock 1973 Malibu gauges were basic: speedometer, fuel, and temperature. Aftermarket performance gauges typically monitor oil pressure, voltage, boost, and other critical metrics for modified engines. Their presence told car enthusiasts everything they needed to know. This wasn't a stock setup, whatever was under the hood. Street Muscle magazine speculated that given the driver's mechanical skills and the car's on-screen performance, the engine likely featured period-correct performance modifications, a streetable V8 with considerably more power than any factory rating. The gauges were the tell, the silent confession that this sleeper had teeth. Fact number 12. Drive grossed $76 million on a $15 million budget. The movie itself became a massive success, grossing $76 million worldwide against a production budget of just $15 million. That's more than a 5x return on investment, making it one of 2011's most profitable films relative to its budget. Critics listed Drive as one of the best films of 2011, with the National Board of Review and numerous critics groups showering it with praise. It earned Nicholas Winding Refn the Best Director award at the 2011 Cannes Film Festival, and received 4 BAFTA nominations, including Best Film. The film's success turned both Gosling and the Malibu into cult icons. Nearly 15 years later, the "literally me" memes and references continue to circulate online, proving the movie's enduring cultural impact. Fact number 13. Gosling spoke only 891 words in 100 minutes. Ryan Gosling's character speaks just 891 words during the film's 1 hour and 40-minute runtime, spread across 116 lines of dialogue. That works out to less than 9 words per minute of screen time, one of the most dialogue-light leading performances in modern cinema. The minimalist approach wasn't in the original script. After Gosling and Refn removed much of the driver's dialogue, co-star Bryan Cranston felt his character, Shannon, should compensate for the silence, turning him into a motor mouth. Much of Cranston's dialogue is actually improvised. The silence forced the car to become even more important as a storytelling device. Without dialogue to explain the driver's character, the Malibu did the talking. Its rough exterior, mechanical sounds, and brutal capability revealed everything audiences needed to know about the man behind the wheel. Fact number 14. The wheelbase measured 116 inches. Let's talk specs. The 1973 Chevelle rode on a 116-inch wheelbase with an overall length of 207 inches and a width of 77 inches. This made it substantially larger than the previous generation, reflecting GM's shift toward more spacious, comfort-oriented designs. The longer wheelbase provided a smoother ride quality and better high-speed stability, perfect for a getaway driver. The colonnade roofline, despite being criticized by muscle car purists, actually created a stronger structure that protected occupants during the film's stunt sequences. The size also made the Malibu feel imposing on screen without being ostentatious. It had presence and weight, moving through Los Angeles like a shark through water. Fact number 15. Gosling still owns one of 3 cars. Remember those 3 Chevelles built for production? Ryan Gosling kept one of them for his personal collection, maintaining that connection he forged during the rebuild process. This wasn't just a movie prop to him. It was a machine he understood at the molecular level. Film writer and editor Damon Wise confirmed that Gosling's bond with the Malibu extended beyond the film. Interestingly, Gosling apparently has a habit of keeping his movie vehicles. He also allegedly still owns his motorcycle from A Place Beyond the Pines, another crime drama featuring heists and getaways. The fact that Gosling held on to the car speaks volumes about what it meant to him. This wasn't acting. This was automotive passion translated to screen. That authenticity, that genuine connection between driver and machine is exactly what makes Drive unforgettable. If you enjoyed diving deep into this legendary movie car, smash that like button and drop a comment about your favorite scene featuring the Malibu. What other iconic movie car should we cover? Let me know below. And remember, sometimes the most interesting stories come from the rides that don't look like much on the surface.